Hello and welcome to the Christopher Holt Training Podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking about banishing lower back pain, and we're going to be talking about strategies to help you relieve your lower back pain and overcome your lower back pain. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. First of all, just to set this podcast up, what we're not going to be talking about is some new trend. We're not going to be talking about a quick fix. We're going to be talking about proper strategies that, in some respects, have been proven by science and experience, because I do believe both are important. Yes, you do need a scientific representation of things happening within the body, within lower back pain, but also what is in some respects just as powerful is the actual first-hand real experience, which as a coach I have. So that's what we're going to be talking about through here. I'm going to go through 4 of them. Hopefully you'll be able to learn something new. Hopefully if you are a health professional, it'll add to your coaching. If you are struggling with lower back pain, then obviously get in contact, click the links below. You can get involved in my online coaching and consultation, which you can be anywhere in the world for that. There is a face-to-face option as well if you are in and around the Bristol area in the UK. So yes, let's get started with strategy number 1, which is get specific. The term non-specific lower back pain is not necessarily a very useful term because it doesn't really tell you anything. There's a lot of anatomy. There's a lot of different types of anatomy that go on within the lower back, and these different anatomy can give you different types of pain. So that has to be established. Then you have many different mechanisms of that pain, which could be certain movements, which could be certain postures, which could be certain positions. It could be specific exercises, but there are also things within all of these different elements or components. So what we're trying to do is to create this, in some respects, some sort of decision tree, but it's not as simple as a decision tree. But what we're trying to do is categorize more specifically the lower back pain. But what the industry has done, and what many therapists do, many coaches do, many trainers do, many surgeons do, is they lump it in to this big bucket called non-specific lower back pain. And then it's anyone's guess as to what's causing it, which in some respects makes it anyone's guess as to what is going to cure it. So what we're trying to do is be more specific, dig a little bit deeper, try and understand the lower back pain a little bit more, understand the triggers a little bit more, and then what we're able to do is understand a better rehabilitation for it, because too many times the solution lies within the problem, and the more you can understand the problem, the more you can understand the solution, because it kind of just pops out at you. Certainly half of it will, which is the stuff to stop doing, and then we may have to get a little bit not necessarily creative, but there's an element of trial and error. There's an element of foresight and just good understanding of anatomy that helps us understand the rehabilitation process that much easier. So for example, and these are just examples, these aren't the only examples, this isn't the only categories of specific lower back pain that I'm going to be talking about, but for example, do you get back pain from sitting, lifting, or exercise? There are 3 examples. There are more. Yours may be different, but I don't want you to necessarily understand the specific examples that I'm going to be talking about. It's more the process and the principles that lie within them. So, do you get back pain from sitting, lifting, or a specific exercise? If there is, note that down, because that's useful information. Now we have to think about, what is it about the sitting, what is it about the lifting, and what is it about the exercise that is causing the problem. So here are 4. And again, there are more. Is it the duration that you are sat down? So do you get pain 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever it may be? If it is, again, write that time down, because what we're starting to do is starting to establish some triggers and some mechanisms of pain. And if we can take those mechanisms away, we can start to reduce the pain. So you can start to see the very simple logic that comes along with it. Is it the posture of your sitting? Is it because you're slouched? Is it because you're too extended? Is it because you're completely static when you sit? So you could be in the best posture possible that they teach you in sort of desk hygiene, if you will, having the computer at the right height and the seat at the right level and all that kind of stuff. But if you are literally rigid in that position, that can cause as much of a problem as well. So is it the posture? Do you need to move posture? Do you need to change posture? So on and so forth. More to do with lifting and exercise, but is it the load that you're lifting, or is it the load within the exercise? So is it the weight that you're lifting? So it might just mean just reduce the load at which you're lifting during the exercise. It could mean, if you're lifting something at work, that you need help doing it. Is it the intensity at which you're doing the exercise at? Or if it's a load at work, and you've got to do it multiple times, how many times does it take before it comes on? Is it the first lift that does it? Is it the 15th lift that does it? Or is it the 50th lift that does it? If you can itemize all this out, you're going to start understanding there is a mechanism there. And if you can start understanding the mechanism, you can start putting bits in place to understand that, hang on a minute, if I do this, I remove that trigger. Therefore, I can not have as much pain. And we're going to come on to that in the second one, in the second strategy. So if it's exercise, do I need to just reduce the weight? Do I need to reduce the reps? Do I need to increase the rest break? So you can start to see all these different variables that could be at play. It may be that it's a couple of these. It could be that only the exercises at the end of the workout cause the problem, which could just be a duration of workout or the amount of reps within that time, allotted time, 60 minutes or 45 minutes or whatever it is. So if you reduce that, reduce the amount of reps, increase the recovery time, you may be able to get through a 60-minute workout without any back pain. So you can start to understand there is a specific nature to your lower back pain. So when it gets lumped into the bucket of non-specific lower back pain, that's not necessarily true, because what we've done is we've found some specific triggers to your back pain. It's not non-specific, it's specific to an exercise. It's specific to the duration that you are sitting. So we can start to have that as an understanding. And then what we're able to do is then put in the strategies in place to help you overcome that. And that's how it's essentially you go about overcoming lower back pain. And if you click the link below, if you enter your name and details, there are 3 questionnaires that you will be sent. You fill them out, and that's what we start identifying. We start identifying these triggers, and we start identifying how we can then, so during the consultation, so you fill that out, it gets sent to me, we book you in for the consultation, and then we start thinking about, or I've done this because I've already read the consultation, but I then start teaching you about these triggers and then about what can be done in their place to help overcome your lower back pain. So strategy number 1 is get specific. Strategy number 2 is think progress, not pain-free immediately. What we've got to be looking for are some quick wins. Now, what's happening is we're starting to dampen down the pain, and we're starting to, more importantly, dampen down the pain signals, because pain signals can go unconscious. So, as an example, if there is a posture that is painful, your body, when you go into that, can recognize that early, and it will, whether there's a problem or not, it will send a signal, because it's recognizing the posture that you're going into, and it's like, no, this is a problem, here's a pain signal, get out of that posture. It's not saying there's a problem, it's just warning you that it doesn't like it. So if we could start removing that trigger, so if we use the example of sitting that I described, and you get pain after 10 minutes of sitting. So if we put a strategy in place that is able to help you overcome, or able to not let that signal go. Now, there may be a problem. There. It could be a disc touching a nerve. There could be a physical problem that's going on. You may have MRI scans that show it happening, so on and so forth. So I'm not saying every person that sits doesn't have a bad back. And I'm not saying that every trigger isn't there because there isn't a physical problem. What I'm saying is that what can happen in some people is their back could be not necessarily healthy, but there isn't a imminent danger or an imminent physical problem that's happening. But the brain can recognize that there is a problem, or it doesn't like a posture, because there is this thing called muscle guarding, which is essentially your body remembering that there was a problem, that there necessarily isn't necessarily one now, and muscles can remain tight in an area because it perceives a problem. It doesn't necessarily need to be a problem. So if we go back to the sitting, if we could interrupt that signal, not physically interrupt it, but just stand you up after 7 minutes, take a walk around the office or the house, or up and down stairs, just something to give some movement to some muscles, distract the brain from being a problem, sit you back down after a minute or so, then what we may find is that you sit for another 7 minutes, we get you up, we do it again, sit you down, another 7 minutes, get you up, move around. And then what we find is that we've done 21 minutes of sitting, pain-free. So that's number one. What also will start to happen is you don't just stick at 7 minutes, is you then build that capacity over time. So you may then move it to 9 minutes. Do you walk? 9 minutes. Do you walk? 9 minutes. Do you walk? That doesn't mean everyone needs to do a walk. Again, that's just one strategy of plenty. So again, what we've done is we've done 27 minutes. 9 minutes times 3, 27 minutes. We've done 27 minutes pain-free sitting. Now, admittedly, we've interrupted the signal, so we've not let it happen. But what may happen in the next week is that we then go, okay, well, let's go for 11 minutes or 12 minutes. Do 12 minutes of sitting, do you walk, 12 minutes sitting, do you walk, 12 minutes sitting, do you walk, whatever it is. So what we've then done is we've done even longer, we've done 36 minutes, but what we've also done is we've gone over that 10 minutes, which is where it was previously. So we've built the capacity and we've not allowed the body to signal the pain, if that makes sense. So it's very much a case of looking for the quick wins. So we're not talking about getting out of pain immediately and it never happening again, because you may get it sitting, you may get it in this scenario and that scenario, but what we're doing is we're finding ways of just getting you out of the pain and minimizing it. It may be that when you start doing it, it just dampens the pain down. And then with a dampened pain, so let's just say it's a subjective scale of 1 to 10, you say my pain is at 7 out of 10. Completely subjective. But then in 3 weeks, you say, well, okay, my pain, after doing the strategy that we've implemented, my pain's gone down to 5 or it's gone down to 4. Again, it's subjective, but there will be some real-time physical changes happening. And that's what we have to look at. So we have to think about progress rather than we do this one exercise, like you see on social media everywhere. Do this one exercise and you'll be out of pain immediately. And it's like, oh, no, that's not it. Well, I say that's not how it works. That's not how it works for the vast majority of individuals. There may be someone who gets very lucky, who hasn't recognized their trigger, that it's just pot luck, and I've seen this video, I've chosen this exercise, I've done it, and it's happened. Fine. But you weren't necessarily conscious of it happening, and it's not necessarily a one size fits all. So what we've done so far is we've talked about get specific. Once you can get specific, you can then start thinking about reducing and dampening the pain, which interrupts the signal or essentially just doesn't allow it to be sent, which then winds it back down. So the body isn't as sensitive to sending that signal. So if there isn't a problem, it will just eventually just wear itself out and it will just sort of peter off and it won't send the signal anymore, and then there won't be a problem. But what we're trying to do is dampen the pain, and rather than thinking, I've not cured my back pain in a week or in a one workout or with one exercise, we're starting to think, okay, I'm going to start reducing my low back pain. So I'm going to take it from that 7 out of 10 down to 5, down to 3, then it might go back up to 5 for, I had a busy week or I had a stressful week, and then we drop it back down again. But all of these things, because life happens, we have to take into consideration when it comes to the rehabilitation process. Because yes, in an ideal world, we would just go through a rehab process and it go from 7 to 5 to 3 to 1 to 0. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen. Again, in my coaching, I will be completely honest with you. There are times because we start reducing the pain, and then for whatever reason, people think, oh, I'm over this. Oh, this is a lot better. I'll do something different that isn't on strategy. And it's like, oh, it's come back again. Or they just have a stressful week. Life happens. I understand that. I've got real-time experience working with people. I know that happens. I know the best way to put pieces in place to minimize risk. But as a general rule, over time, we watch the pain come down, plateau, and off it goes. So we have to think about it in that way. Stop thinking about immediate removal of lower back pain and start thinking about dampening the signal. Strategy number 3. Now, exercise isn't a guaranteed pain reducer, but it can help minimize risk. So we have to do what we've talked about before, because we haven't really talked about any exercise yet. What we talked about is everyday strategies whilst you're sat at your desk, whilst you're lifting at work, whatever it may be. We haven't talked about, I need to strengthen my core, because again, you see it all the time. Having a strong core eliminates back pain. It doesn't. How strong does your core need to be to eliminate back pain? I know people that would have a weak core with lower back pain. I also know people with a strong core with lower back pain. It's not a precursor. So it's not a pain reducer. If you have back pain and you do lots of exercise, again, I have conversations with people all the time. I was doing this exercise, I was doing that exercise, they told me it would help, and it didn't, or it made it worse, whatever it may be. Now, this isn't in every case, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do exercise. I'm just saying you need to understand how exercise is used in the rehabilitation of lower back pain. So what is exercise doing? Well, exercise is activating muscles. So there is an element of stabilizing the spine that comes with exercise, which will help mitigate risk or reduce risk. Again, I don't talk about prevention. I don't like prevention because it's a bit too of an absolute term. I'm going to use this exercise to prevent lower back pain. It's not going to happen. You can certainly reduce risk because, again, life happens. A lot happens in life that can cause lower back pain. So we just need to mitigate that risk. And exercise is very good at doing that. So we need, once we've started reducing the pain and winding all that down, what we can then do is start activating the muscles with exercise to start reducing risk for it happening in the future. So it activates muscles, which helps stabilize the spine. So that's sort of two things that happens with exercise. What it also does is it starts reducing load on the spine. Now, what comes with this is sort of number 4, which is posture matters. If you have a flexed spine, and again, I'm going to talk about this in a little bit more detail in the next one, because again, a lot of stuff gets taken out of context, which is why I try to explain as much as I can and why I don't really have short answers for things. So it's all about using exercise as a way of reducing load on the spine, because the load on the spine will cause it a problem, let's say. But it won't necessarily do it in the immediate or at the immediate time. It will probably accumulate and then pop out at some random time when you're picking a pen up off the floor or something. But posture matters. So going back to the flexed spine. A flexed spine with loose musculature puts unnecessary stress on the spine. When it puts unnecessary stress on the spine, it concentrates that stress. When it concentrates the stress, it opens it up and makes it more liable to be injured or to become injured in the future or potentially immediately. So we have to think about the posture of the spine when we're doing exercise. We have to think about the muscle activity around the spine, because again, if we've got too much muscle activity, compression could be a trigger for lower back pain. So if we've got too much muscle activation, that could be causing the problem. Again, that needs to be understood. So it's very much, when we're talking about exercise, we've got to think about the previous 2 strategies, which is number 1, get specific. Number 2, we've got to think progress, not immediate elimination of pain. Then we've got to start choosing the right exercises that fit with your specific nature of lower back pain, that don't enhance those triggers of your lower back pain. So let's just take a flexed spine as trigger. So when you sit with a flexed spine. Most people do. So you would have what is described as a flexion intolerant spine. So what we want to be able to do is eventually, once we've started winding the pain down, we want to start doing exercises that don't flex the spine, because we've discovered that a flexed spine is a problem for you. So what we have to do is we have to think, well, okay, we need to be in a neutral posture. It could be that extension is the problem, so we don't want to be going into exercises that encourage extension. So we've got to be thinking about all of these different things when it comes to overcoming your specific lower back pain. And we've got to select exercises based on your triggers. So the first thing we have to do, as I mentioned, is get to know and get specific about these triggers. Then choose the exercise that fits it, choose the load that fits it, choose the reps that fit it, choose the sets that fit it. So we've then got a whole package of an exercise that, through all the information and data that we've collected on your pain, shouldn't cause it a problem. So we then start implementing these exercises. Now, these could be done straight away. That can happen. But before that, we need to get in control of the pain. If we haven't got control of the pain, it might not be necessarily that useful doing exercises straight away. So we have to think about it in that way. So we have to be strategic, we have to be logical, and we have to have good reason for the exercises that we use and the time that we use them. So it may be that we just wait a little bit before we do it, or we allow it to happen straight away, depending, again, it's all based on your pain. There are no right answers, there are no wrong answers. The only right answer is because it's based on your lower back pain. So if we go back to that flex spine, let's just say a side plank for someone with a flexion intolerant spine is going to be a good decision. It's going to be the right answer because we've understood the pain triggers, we've understood the mechanics of the spine, we've chosen the exercise, and it's like, well, yeah, there is nothing telling us that the side plank is going to give us a problem. So therefore, we can sort of say that is the right answer. Based on everything that we know, that is the right answer. It may come out when you actually practice it in the experience that it aggravates it a little bit. But again, there wouldn't necessarily be any reason for that to happen because there's nothing crying out telling us that the side plank is going to cause it a problem. So if we go back to the flex spine, a sit-up or a crunch may not be the most useful exercise because we are flexing the spine. So that would be the wrong answer. So there are right and wrong answers, but it depends on the criteria that we're using, which quite nicely leads us in to strategy number 4. But just to finish off strategy number 3, when it comes to exercise, it's not a guaranteed pain reducer, but it will help you minimize risk in the future. So number 3, exercise isn't a pain reducer, but it's good for a prolonged strategy. Number 4, use low back pain research in context. And I put this one in there because a lot of people stick to the science or the science that they agree with, probably more specifically. Now, why am I saying this and why am I any more right than anyone else? Well, the word comes down to context. You have to understand the context at which the research has been put within, and then the conclusion will make sense because you are determining that that conclusion is determined based on the method. So there is a paper out there. Now I can't remember the full title. You can look it up online. If you just write into Google to flex or not to flex, and then just write in lower back pain, because that's part of the title. It's sort of using that Shakespeare thing, to be or not to be, whereas it's put it into to flex or not to flex, because there is a lot of people, a lot of therapists, a lot of trainers that say it's okay to flex the spine. This paper agrees with that, and it says there is no reason why you shouldn't flex your spine or use the neutral spine. Now, that may well be true, but as I've mentioned, if you have a flexion intolerant spine, it may be a problem. Now, when you look at the method of that, and this is what people don't do, and the person that questioned me on this certainly didn't do, because it was very easy to come back at his objection with what I was saying. So, when you look at the method, they had, I can't remember how many people, 20, 30 people maybe, that all had back pain. And they asked them to pick up a weight from the floor that was, I think they did a few different weights, but I don't think it was any heavier than 12 kilos. So they asked them to lift a 12 kilo kettlebell off the floor, and that may not have been the tipping point, as I mentioned. So you've got these people, this amount of people that are picking a weight up off the floor once that's only of 12 kilos, and I think they used a few different weights, so some were lighter, some were up to 12 kilos, or maybe even 20 kilos, I can't remember, but it wasn't a huge amount of weight. But what didn't happen is none of them had back pain after it. So in the conclusion, what was written was, based on this study, there is no reason to have a neutral spine when lifting if you have lower back pain. But what they haven't done is they haven't done a comprehensive analysis of that people's lower back pain. What they've done is just assumed that, okay, well, a flex spine is bad for the back, so therefore a flex spine must cause them pain. Lift that up, please. It's not done that. And then they've said, okay, fine. But what if those people, what if some of them didn't even have a flexion intolerant spine? No matter how many times they lift it, they're never going to get lower back pain. But what if they just extend their spine once and boom, out comes the pain? We have to understand the triggers and their specific nature, which is why when we read research, for you guys that are out researching and trying to learn about your own lower back pain, you have to trust the person telling you this information, because there are a lot of people that are saying you can flex your spine, you can do this, you can do that, but they don't know your lower back pain. You do. But sometimes you aren't necessarily conscious of all your specific triggers. So if you can lay these out, when you watch another video or when you listen to another expert, you will then be able to go, that doesn't seem right for me, because my lower back pain triggers when it does something similar to that, or it does that exact thing. So that's not for me. So then you leave that one. They may, the same expert in another video may have a useful bit of information. And it's like, yeah, that seems to make sense for what I need. Okay, I'm going to use that, but I'm not going to use that previous one. And that's how you have to understand your lower back pain. And that's how you learn how the research works, is by understanding the context at which the paper was written in. And that's what I've tried to do all the way through this, is try and help you understand the context of your lower back pain. Because if you can understand that context, what you can then start to do is you can start picking the exercises. You can then start picking the everyday activities that are relevant to you, that will help you overcome your lower back pain. Not what a science paper has said, that studying people that don't have your type of lower back pain, and they say, well, no, it's fine to do this, or it's fine to do that, or whatever it may be, but that's your trigger. So the science is saying that it's okay to do it, but that's your trigger. So, well, yeah, but I'm supposed to believe the science, so there's something wrong with my body, not the science. It's like, no. There's something wrong with the way the science was conducted. There's nothing wrong with your body. What we have to understand is, like I've said, your triggers, and then the science, understand the context at which it's been written, because if they had written the introduction, we are going to test a flex spine with people lifting a 12 kilo kettlebell once. They have this type of lower back pain and that type of lower back pain, and we are going to see if this causes them a problem. Because if someone has an extension intolerant spine, then flexing the spine, it may not be a problem. If they have a load intolerance that is less or greater than 12 kilos, let's test it. Okay, let's test it 10 times. Okay, 50 times. And it's not causing a problem. Okay, so this type of lower back pain is okay to flex a spine with this type of load. So you can start to understand how the science is put together. And then that allows you to make better and more informed decisions. Now, I could go on with examples and, repeating myself on and on and on, which I'm conscious of doing, but I'm not going to do it anymore. So that brings us to the end of this episode, which I hope has given you a better understanding of your lower back pain. I hope it's given you a better understanding of the science around it. And I hope it gives you a little bit of empowerment to know that you know your lower back pain. It's not just an expert that knows your lower back pain and knows the strategy. You can know it. If you need help, click the link and stick your details in. I'd be more than happy to take you through my consultation and coaching packages to be able to help you overcome your lower back pain. But that is an interactive process. You fill out the questionnaires. I then use my experience and expertise to be able to form a sensible strategy, and then we go about putting it in place. But I need your feedback to know what's working, what's not working, and to hone it and make it more specific. Because if I set you an exercise that has maybe too many reps, and then you tell me it's starting to aggravate, well, let's just rein it back in a little bit and do less reps, or let's do less exercise, or let's do less time, or whatever it is. And then you go, that's it, it's worked. I'm exercising, I'm not getting any pain. Okay, good. We weren't quite polished with the reps, the sets, and the amount of exercise and the duration of the workout, but now we are, so we can then move forward. So yes, click the link below, go through to that, and I'm more than happy to help and coach you through that. So many thanks for watching. My name is Chris from Christopher Holt Training. I'll speak to you in the next episode.